Good video games make great enemies. They make you just disdain the bad guy, and that gives you so much motive to go forward. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 most hated video game enemies. At number 10 is the Cougar from Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption. And yeah, we're kind of doing this one to establish that an enemy isn't necessarily always like the most amazing villain. It may be a force of nature. And that's exactly what we have in the Cougar, which first appeared in Red Dead Redemption. The reason they're such an effective enemy is they're typically attacking you from behind and you don't even have any idea, and it's pretty much a guaranteed one-hit kill. Of course, they appear a lot in hunting missions specifically, and for some reason, they actually can scare you. Like, there's been a couple of times where they've made me jump pretty bad. And although that does happen and they are dangerous, it's also, like, weirdly funny, too. Like, in Grand Theft Auto, when you get mauled by one of them and it does the wasted thing, it's funny. Like, really funny. I don't know why. At number 9 is Lynels from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You know, the big centaur guys. They have way more attacks than you think. They are actually really hard to fight. And I can remember that at the point in the game where I first encountered one, it was by far the thing that took me the longest to get past. If you see one of these guys, generally just go the opposite direction. There's no real reason to fight them unless you have to. They have really powerful close-range attacks, they can use a bow, they shoot fireballs, and they can trample you. It's just, I mean, the list goes on. They're fast, so like it's really hard to get away from them once you've gotten entangled with one. But if you try to run away, they'll often teleport to chase after you. Like it's that level, like an enemy that you would call a griefer if they were another person in an online game. I mean, seriously, just try to fight one of these guys. Try to do it. You can actually mount them like a horse, but I don't know why you would. At number 8 is Jackal snipers from Halo 2. These guys are pretty simple. Like, they're not really outstanding in any way. They're not like Machiavellian geniuses or anything. They're just basic jackals. They don't really take a lot of hits to kill or anything, but hey, for some reason, you give them a sniper rifle and suddenly they're the 360 no-scope headshot kings. That sounds like some kind of a band, like a really pretentious, awful band. These guys are pinpoint accurate, though. They do tons of damage. And if you're playing on Legendary, they even just one-shot kill you, instant death. Oh, Jackal sniper. I know what just happened to me. I mean, they are just a huge pain to deal with, and every time I even think of it, I just get physically irritated. I mean, later games made these sniper-type enemies a little bit less dangerous. I think probably because they annoy people in the way they annoy me. But like, even on the Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, they were like, let's make sure that these things are as deadly as they were originally, just to make people like Falcon mad. That's probably not the real reason. Also, the Promethean Watchers from Halo 4. I hate you. Your jetpack looks dumb. At number 7 is Revenants from 2018's God of War. To set them up, Revenants are witches who trade as a small bit of their soul for more power, and eventually they lose all of their humanity and become what is known as a Revenant. They aren't, like, nice looking or anything, so don't expect, like, the sexy witch stereotype you might see around Halloween. None of that. But they are super fast. They move around like nothing else, dodge and move weird. Your best bet is actually sicking your boy on them. Boy! Because long-ranged attacks don't do anything. Just gets out of the way and attacks you or does something else. If boy actually manages to stun the Revenants, that's usually the best bet. That lets you do a grab on them, and that's much better than trying to fight these crazy fast, crazy slippery former witches. At number 6 is the Judicator Argos from Dark Souls 3. These guys are big and weird and, I mean, in theory, fairly slow and not massively scary. The problem is these guys can summon entire groups of enemies to shoot fire arrows at you from far away. And if you get too close, they summon these close-range fighters that are tough and, well, irritating to say the very least. More annoying is if you try to snipe them outside their attack range. No, you don't get to do that. They will summon phantoms who will appear directly next to you, and those phantoms will mess you up. And even though they look like and behave like a mini-boss, meaning they should never respawn, they respawn. Which means if you want to fully explore some areas, you have to deal with these guys more than once. To call them a hated enemy would be a vast understatement of my negative feelings directed towards them. At number 5 is the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4. Now, these guys are big and freaky looking, but when you shoot them, they start to regenerate. These goofy little tentacle things start flipping out and flipping around. You can do basically whatever you want to them, and they just, they do what their name says. There's 2 to 5 Plagueis parasites in them, and you gotta get rid of them if you want to beat them. You can't see them with the naked eye, you have to use an infrared scope, and generally you have to use a pretty powerful gun like a Punisher or a Magnum or something along those lines. You could also use a couple of incendiary grenades on them, and that does a little more damage, but these guys are freaky looking, and it's hard to kill them. So if the game's atmosphere has gotten to you, these guys they'll shake you a bit, to say the least. At number 4 is Witch Doctors from Borderlands II. Now, these guys don't do a lot of damage in any one attack that they can do on you. And from that perspective, it's not the worst thing. However, the problem is that they have tons of health, so it takes a long time to kill them. And they power up other enemies which are currently attacking you as well. They also have a ranged attack. They can heal themselves and have this annoying little ability that they can turn into a magic tornado at any given time. They're almost invincible, and it lasts. Oh, does it last? You have to target them first because they buff all the other enemies, but they take way too damage to go down, and the more time you waste on them, the more damage all the other enemies will do to you. Worst of all is the Vampire Witch Doctors, which combination of two things I'm sure you love to hear as far as types of enemy. Their attacks heal themselves on top of their standard healing powers. These guys would basically end up healing more than you could ever damage them unless you get rid of them quick. At number 3 is Gracious and Glorious from Bayonetta. These are supercharged versions of the standard Grace and Glory enemies. They always appear together, they always coordinate their attacks, and they're always a pain in the butt. Outside of being way more aggressive and damaging than their predecessors, Grace and Glory, they also completely ignore witch time, which is like the primary advantage you have as Bayonetta. Not that she's not powerful, it's just witch time is the thing that makes it go. Witch time's activated when you dodge just before an enemy's attack, and if you time it right, you get a few seconds where enemies are slowed down. It's kind of like bullet time, and you move at normal speed, basically kicking the crap out of them. It's one of those really Platinum Games things. It works really well in the context of the game, just not on these guys. On their own, they'd be hard enough, but just the fact that they can completely bypass, again, Bayonetta's main advantage over enemies in the game, at least for most of the game. Panzer Within is obviously a bigger advantage, but yeah, this one sucks. At number 2 is the Shark Giant from Bloodborne. These guys are a pain. I do not like dealing with them. They appear in the fishing village. They are about as aggressive as an enemy gets in this game, and they have tons of health. The worst encounter with them is down the well at the start of the area because there's 2 of them, and you gotta fight them at the same time. I mean, they're way faster than they look too. They're big, but they will move. And they've got these nutso diving attacks, and the area you have to fight the 2 I mentioned is not big. Most players just completely ignore them because they're really hard to deal with, or you do something not particularly clever, like poisoning them, running away for a while, just letting the poison do the thing. And then, of course, there are small flying enemies. This isn't game specific. I'm going to mention actually a few different ones. Probably the most prominent you can find just across many different games is bats. Bats are annoying in most Zelda entries, but Breath of the Wild bats, wow, not a fan. Bats in Mega Man are definite blood pressure risers. Not that they're particularly damaging, but wow, can they mess up the platforming if you mess up in some way. Terraria, pretty similar actually to the Mega Man problems, although it plays out a little different. Bats in Castlevania, bats in Metroid. Of course there's bats in those two games. They're the forerunners of a type of platformer in which bats seem to be pretty prominent actually. But it's not just bats, there's like eagles in Far Cry 4. These guys will take pigs and stuff. They're hard to kill because they're pretty agile eagles, you know. Crows in Resident Evil. They behave differently in different titles, but wow, crows. The Cazadores, found in the Mojave Wasteland of Fallout New Vegas. Wow. Gotta love these insects. Do tons of damage and they poison you. And the final one we'll mention at this point is Rax from Borderlands. They appear in flocks and even at low levels, they'll kill you. They're really a big pain. What are some of your most hated enemies in video games? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications. Of course, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. And we'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.